Welcome to Cinema Select Cinematographer edition. And I have the pleasure for episode 1 to have cinematographer Barbie Leung. Yes, I am dyslexic, so we'll have a lot of issues pronouncing names and words. But
You say it well.
okay, thank you so much. All right, Barbie, thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to talk about cinematography, about the job as a cinematographer. Before we start, I actually want to thank Coffee Project New York for providing the coffee today. I did a collaboration with them several years ago where I interviewed the actresses from a short film that I shot and directed called Us. We did a Q&A in their coffee shop in Brooklyn. It was really a lot of fun, and it's great to collaborate with them again. Their mission as a coffee business is to improve the quality of the life for every person in the coffee supply chain, from producers to consumers. They are really awesome. Their coffee is delicious. They have locations throughout Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. Make sure to check them out. It's a very cool coffee shop. All right, so as a filmmaker, coffee is very important. So what is your go-to coffee?
My go-to coffee is, I'm still trying to figure out the exact water to coffee to milk ratio, but I think I'm having a macchiato. So basically anything that is not a lot of water, so really focusing on the espresso.
Espresso, and what kind of milk?
Ideally, half whole milk and half oat milk.
Oh, okay. Like you mix the
Ideally,
two different.
yeah, because I think they each bring something to the table.
Okay, that's cool. I never heard that before.
Yeah, let's try it.
Yeah, I'll try. I'm having Americano today. All right. So my first question: how long have you been a cinematographer?
Oh, yeah. I think at this point about 8 years, although the question is always murky, right? Because in the beginning, it's like, what is the kind of work that you are actually shooting? But I think I'm comfortable saying 8 years.
Did you start immediately as a cinematographer, or what did you first?
Yeah, absolutely not immediately. A very winding road, which I think is true for a lot of people. I have a bachelor's in film theory, so not production, but because I'm from New York originally, it's easier to sort of come home and start to PA on different projects. So I did that, and I kind of went along the camera assistant route for a while, but it really took a long time. I quit, and I kind of did complete different things before really making the commitment to then becoming a camera operator and shooting my own work.
Okay, cool. So can you tell me what was your first job on set, and what was the first lesson that you learned?
Yeah. The first job on what I felt was an actual set was a super low budget feature, and I just applied on Craigslist to be a PA. And when I showed up, it was they needed a script supervisor. So then I became a scriptie by going to the library at the time, because the internet, there's just not enough information that's very deep film knowledge. So I went to the library in the reference section and looked up how to be a script supervisor. And so that's what I did on that feature. I think there was actually a lesson on that particular set, which had nothing to do with any of the work of trying to be a script supervisor. The continuity, those were really good to learn those things. But I think the lesson that I learned, and it's something about my own behavior. And I think that as soon as it happened, I'm like, oh, wait, this is something I should learn not to do in the future. As in any low budget set, you're kind of pushed to the limits of what your own department has to do. There was one instance, it was between me and, I want to say it was either production design. I think it was production design. And there's only one person in the department, and we were just really stressed over whatever it was doing, and we were setting up for a shot, so we were right where the action is, the actors, the camera, everything, and we were each trying to do our job, and it kind of exploded into a mini argument. And I realized very immediately, as soon as it came out of my mouth, whatever I was saying, oh, this should happen away from the set. And I think that that carries true to no matter if I'd gone into camera or another department, I think that would still hold true, that those things are going to happen and you got to take it behind closed doors.
That's very true. We don't want to have any drama on set, and if there is, we don't want any people to know. So it is very important, and it's sometimes in the middle of it, like we forget that the whole crew and maybe the cast is watching. So yeah, that's a very important.
Because you care so much about the job that you're doing, but like I think most people do. You know,
it's true. Most I feel like something that every filmmaker has is that this passion for making film, and sometimes we forget that it's we also have to be professional.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so it reminds me that when you say you looked on the internet, when I started in film, I found this book. I don't know if you know about it, The Guerrilla Filmmaker.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
It's a very thick, heavy book. There is a yellow and a blue version. And I remember when I came to the United States that I was looking at what does a script supervisor do? What does a gaffer do? Like,
Yep.
It's a very old book.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's probably still up to date, but
Right.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of that moment when I was looking at everybody's job on set.
Yeah.
So what made you want to become a cinematographer?
I think it was that I always loved watching movies, and so I didn't know how to make a movie, like in general, right? So then as you fill in the roles, it's literally like being on that first set and seeing that, oh, the action is happening over here near the camera, right? And I just, for some reason, I didn't want to be a director because I think being an audience member of films, like growing up, I'm obsessing over just visually what's happening inside the box, right, inside the frame. And I wanted to give all of my attention to all the details happening there. And it's not that I don't care about the story or the characters, the actors, right? I do. I loved all those things too. But I think that it just felt more satisfying to me to be focusing on all the little details of how like the light is coming through and composition. Like I'm a huge composition person. And I think, and not that I could have articulated any of those things starting out, but I think that if I'd gone into to become another kind of filmmaker would be to give up being able to pay attention in that way.
Got it. Yeah, that's true. So you didn't go to film school for cinematography. Do you want to talk about that?
Especially in the first few years, I think having a film theory background was really helpful because I can lean back on those things. And not that I know really all that much about cinema history, but I think it was, as like a young person starting out, it gave me a lot to lean on in a way that I think even people who have a production degree might not necessarily have. And I think like going forward, I think I did toss around a lot of times of getting an MFA, but it just didn't happen. Like I did get rejected from film schools a few times, but I also didn't like rapidly reapply, you know? So I think that that's just where life has landed me, where I kind of made my own film school by shooting a ton of short films in every genre that I could find. I think I still do that, where I'll shoot something because I haven't shot that genre before, or I haven't worked with that kind of director before. So, and to me, it seems like film school is a lot of that, right? You know, you're shooting a lot of different projects and working with a lot of different kinds of people. So whatever I had imagined wanting from film school, I just kind of did it on my own time.
And I want to follow up on that. I'm asked sometimes, like, what genre do I shoot as a cinematographer?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about that question?
It's a very limiting question, no? And but you have to answer it sometimes. I believe that cinematographers, they don't have to do everything, but I think they can have multiple genres or looks that they can be good at. In the way that I like to work on films and in the way that I like to consume films, I think that there's a very large gulf between the two things that I like the most, right? I love the very, very most indie films, small budget, limited locations, really taking risks in terms of how far you can like push darkness or pushing conventions of all kinds. I love that, right? Stories, experimental, all that. And then the second thing that I like, not even the second thing, like I like it equally as much, is huge action blockbusters, especially action comedy. And that's something that I didn't have words for it years ago, but now I know what it is. And it kind of traces all the way back to just me with my mom, just watching movies at home. I probably have mentioned it too many times on like camera or on recording that I love True Lies. Because like the photography a lot of times is very good, right? Not just because you play with big toys, but if it's made with intelligent filmmakers, it's the exact same process that you bring to it, and you can achieve things that are on a different scale from those indie films. And I actually think there's significant overlap in those things where you can have extremely personal stories told in a very experimental fashion that are inside of action movies. And it's equally as subversive, because there's also the audience to consider. You're going to have mass audiences going to watch like an action movie, comedy action movie. And you can actually do a lot of work, like storytelling in it, and more people will see it. And hopefully some of the same people who are like me, who like two very different things.
Very cool. Nice. Can you talk about a challenging moment in your career and how you overcame it?
Yes. First, I want to say that I think most moments are challenging in cinematography and filmmaking. So I feel like you overcome them all the time, like I think on every job. But like a recent challenge that I had was shooting part of a feature in that it's a hybrid format. So it's like documentary and narrative, and I only shot the narrative portion. And because of a lot of different factors, we had to shoot almost all of the scenes that I was involved in on LED volume stages. And I'd never shot on them before. And, ideally, perhaps a smaller project would be better to experiment in that, like doing something like that for the first time. But also maybe not. I think that actually it was just enough stakes in that, like, oh, this is part of a feature. So I need to like pay attention and solve the problems. And it was just so much learning at the same time, because it was we actually shot on two different LED volumes, so you kind of have to acclimate to two different systems and their quirks. So it's not like you could sit there and like learn the quirks and then only master them. It was just a lot of different factors at the same time, and how I overcame it is really just just like doing it. And I think like really relying on the text, at the stages to kind of pull you through, and also just to engage it. So it's not a very fancy answer, but I think I would just approach all challenges the same way. You just have to start doing it, and just relying on other people's knowledge and trusting that and using that.
Yeah, and also relying on your experience that you have done so much work before, that you can do something you've never done before and do it well, because of all the stuff that you've done before. There's always going to be a first time for everything. So I'm sure that your experience also helped you go navigate through this challenging moment.
Yeah, it was helpful in that, like halfway through doing car work on the LED stage, or like halfway through the first setup, I realized that I wasn't offered a headset, but I need a headset, because I could rely on my experience doing previous car work, that the kind of communication, like the speed of the communication that I needed to have with the LED wall text was a very similar relationship that you would have with your team when you're doing car work. So I think being able to link those two ideas is an example of relying on what you know and your experiences while doing something new, right? To rise into a new challenge.
True, yes. let's analyze one of your favorite scenes in a movie.
Yes, so the movie is In the Mood for Love, a Wong Kar-wai film shot by Christopher Doyle. So this is, maybe even like a cheesy pick because I think a lot of people pick In the Mood for Love, but it's also just the truth of my experience, right? Of when I saw this, it was actually with my family, and it was the first film that I saw where I'm like, what is this? And also, why is everyone watching it? Like, why are members of my own family watching this? So it's like a crossover indie, and I think that was like the first one that like happened in my experience. And this scene is when Maggie's character is going to the noodle stall. It's a scene and it's a slow motion sequence. She's taking a thermos to the noodle stall. I just really like the use of hard light here in this like exterior period Hong Kong environment, right? So it's a lot of like stone, but it has all these like hot backlights that are motivated by like the various noodle stall fixtures. Like just seeing the steam, right? And this shot in particular with the bare bulbs off to one side, it's like just complete blackness almost behind her. So I really like the natural negative space that's happening throughout this whole sequence, right? And it's like she's going up the stairs, you have the foreground steam. Tony's character is also going to walk through here, and they fall almost into darkness in this stairwell. There is no backlight here, and that's really nice. Just letting your leads fall into darkness because they're going to come through this other overhead bulb for a moment. Back to composition, I really like this moment, right? You're just sitting here on this empty frame, and you ask the question why, and then it's answered by Tony's character walking into the space and kind of doing the same action. And then just that little bit of movement like kind of changes where the negative space is. I just love how the lighting and the darkness and the composition is constantly changing. It might be the most interesting montage like in cinema for me, because it is telling the story, because it's one character and another character, like ships passing in the night, everything that says about really the whole film, I think is like in this one sequence.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's a great choice. I would love to also now watch one of your scenes that you shot. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so this is the two characters, their love interests, and it's a scene where they're leaving a party and they got into a fight and they're going to reconcile. So I picked this scene because I think it kind of dialogues with like the In the Mood for Love scene that we had talked about, because it is kind of influenced by that, like it was in the mood board. And it's insanely simple lighting. It's literally like a 1K tungsten like fixture that's like on the top of this arc to screen left, and with like full CTB on it. So that's giving you the edge light like on them. And then these are the string lights, just like the ones that you would just order for our parties. It's the same thing that we lit the previous party scene in. And so I had the production designer put those up, and we were trying to block it out and everything. And I don't know, maybe it's the AD or somebody. We're like, oh, why don't we we can just like put them right in front of these lights, right? And then I'm like, or how about like in front of before they start? And the director was completely on board with that because that goes back to the storyboards that we had looked at, where we did look at a lot of like classical cinema. We looked at a lot of like 50s, like Douglas Sirk stuff. We looked at In the Mood for Love, which we both really liked. And that's like literally it, right? Because the director, Todd Bogan, he really liked silhouettes. So what better way to do that than just with two light sources? Because you have the blue, that's our moonlight, and you have the string lights, which is giving you that warm color. And I also think that's like very representative of like the way that I end up lighting sometimes, which is not a lot.
Wow, that's a beautiful shot. Yeah, and then I love that it's pushing in slowly.
Yeah,
and
and in terms of movement, it's just a Steadicam shot, so that the wide you see the whole scene with the arch in the background, which is something like we embraced in the location, and then just going into their close up.
Nice, thank you so much. Let's analyze a scene that you have shot, and tell me about the film.
Yes. So this film is called What Do We Call This?, directed by Anna Mikami. And so this is a story of a young mom that has lost her husband. The story begins here in this funeral home. So this is actually the opening shot. and sequence. So we have this wide shot, and it's the lights coming through 3 large windows and just a lot of atmosphere. This is an example of me not lighting a lot, and I think that this is what the room really feels like, when you're there. And we have a very selective color palette, I think, is the other element that makes this scene successful. So we backlit the curtains just a little bit behind the coffin just to bring that out, because he is like the other important character in the scene. But other than this, it's really the color palette that's doing the most work there. The color palette we bring into her at home. So this shot, the composition really worked with the director on to make sure it kind of shows that, oh, she's dead, so there's a stillness to that. So in this shot, mostly the lighting that's really happening here is just this one slash that is motivated by this off-screen window that we get a hint at of the curtain. And so it's like just giving you that idea of like an overexposure, which I think it was probably something like straw on a tungsten element. And then that's just natural daylight because it's a second floor window in a house in Queens. So like the period accuracy it takes place in the 90s, but the house is like very 50s, right? Which kind of like makes sense. Like more people lived in unrenovated 50s houses. So we wanted to like bring all of that wood and the tungsten units and do a film emulation look, which I think we were pretty successful at. So this was, has a little bit of Super 35 grain on top it's a Alexa Mini, which I think was also a good choice with Ultra Primes. So I think that I really like this sequence because it also kind of works with the quote-unquote film stock that we picked for it with the tungsten units.
Yeah, I love the color palette. And did you use haze for the funeral scene, or is
yeah. So it was like haze everywhere. So I kind of treated the haze as part of the quote film stock, so that we would have it consistent through the whole time.
Oh, cool. You mean the whole movie?
The whole movie.
Oh, cool.
It's a little bit like heavier during the opening sequence.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. So we talked about your first lesson that you learned when you started on set. What is a recent lesson that you've learned?
A recent lesson that I learned is more about the career of a cinematographer, I would say. It's recent in the sense of, in the past couple of years. In talking to cinematographers that I feel are about a decade ahead of me, of having tracked their career, and also talking to like executives that are working in the streamer system, really just learning about how the business side of the industry impacts you directly, like impacts your career directly, and that it's really difficult to anticipate it, but yet you have to consider it and react to it to make your career sustainable. And I think that it's a kind of a slow but recent thing to really wrap my head around.
Yeah, and also, just like technology, I feel like the film industry is evolving very quickly and in very different directions. We shot on film before, and since about we've had digital cameras, but then we have digital cinema cameras that appeared around 2008, I think. And then so film was, everybody said like, oh, film is dead. And now we have a lot of technology, a lot of cameras are changing constantly. It's very hard to keep track of. Is that what you mean in terms of, or is it more like, what kind of change do you mean?
So I think what I mean is you can shoot a movie, but if it's for like certain like producers or like a studio or streamer, will maybe for internal reasons not actually put the movie out, right? Or it may take, you were expecting, because you were told, right? Like the production schedule, you were expecting something within a year. It could maybe take 3 years, 5 years, and it may not end up on a platform that you're expecting, that anybody was expecting. And I think it's more that, you're trying to put your career into some sort of order. And it's very difficult to do that in any kind of linear sense, because something that is very important to you as a cinematographer may not be important in the same way to a number of people up on the chain. And I think that it's a simple lesson, and I think it took me a long time to truly appreciate that, both like because it's kind of daunting to think about, but it's also in a way like comforting in that, well, you just keep working on stuff and you don't know when somebody will see it, but you did it already, like the work is there somewhere. Yeah,
Definitely, like filmmaking is a very unstable job, and it's definitely not a linear career. And as it takes sometimes 5, 10, 20 years for a film to be made, it also takes sometimes years for it to in post-production. So it is very unpredictable, and that's definitely navigating that as a cinematographer, definitely challenging.
yeah.
So, in your opinion, what makes a good cinematographer?
In my opinion, a good cinematographer is someone who is a good politician, actually. Like, I think you have to be a good craftsperson, for sure. But I think that some of that like comes over time anyway, right? I think that you can kind of start anywhere as long as you have good taste. I think you can get there in terms of the craft if you have a good eye. All the technical stuff, all that stuff, I think it can be learned and honed. But I think it also can be honed of like not being an asshole. I think that's also important. So I think it's like these two things of being a good manager, right, of the people that work under you, and also being a good manager of people who work above you, right? The up management, I think, is a lot of it. And then also managing yourself, like managing your own ego, because you need the ego to be a good artist, right? And not forgetting that. So I think it's the balancing act that makes the best cinematographer.
That's true. Yeah, that's very important. Yeah. All right. Well, so do you have any closing statement? Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would love to discuss? It doesn't have to be about filmmaking. If you want to talk about flowers or the weather, or
yeah. Well, I think I really enjoyed this talk. Trying to be sustainable, I think, as a cinematographer, as a filmmaker, as the industry changes, I think that's something that is just, I don't know, it's like worth fighting for almost, I think is maybe it. Because I think everybody is in a similar boat. I think there's a lot of soul searching at this time. And I guess I just want to say that I think it's worth it. If I can, try to end on something positive, right? Like, I think we're all, like, we're not alone, right? That we're all dealing with similar things in our own careers, even though they're very different careers and we shoot a lot of different projects. But that's the through line, that, no matter what happens, I think what we're doing it's still worth it. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Barbie, so much for being here today and talking with me. This is the first episode of Cinema Select Cinematographer Edition. Thank you so much for watching, and till the next one.